Alright, so I'm doing some more commentary on grammar discussion on the Fallible Ideas List. And here I have a post by Kate Sams. And we've been talking about various sentence examples. And there's one particular sentence that's under discussion that I think is a bit of an outlier. And so you see we have here, Kate is talking about some example sentences, let him sleep, or let him to sleep, let him to paint. And she was saying maybe these infinitives are functioning as adverbs earlier. But then, and that's not, I don't think that's the current state of what most people are thinking about on the list regarding these sentences, but that's a bit of a side issue for right now. The main issue is how to approach make him angry. I had said that make him angry describes the state you are to leave some other person in. For example, angry equals angry state. Angry is an adjective. So that was essentially my analysis. So how I was reading the sentence previously, there's an implied with a lot of these. Implied you because it's an imperative. Yeah, it's a grammatical mood. So the implied you comes in, and then make, verb. So subject you, make, verb. Object him, hence object pronoun. Make him what? Make him angry. Adjective. Full stop. That was my initial approach, at least. So now we'll see what Kate says. So Kate, as of this July 16th post, at least, is maintaining her view that at least for these infinitives, the adverbs, that they're functioning as adverbs. But regarding make him angry, she says, consider that is an erroneous comma, but that's fine. Consider these implied words, you make him to be or become angry. Now, I'm actually unclear whether Kate means you make him to be angry, or I should say, whether with the become, there's supposed to be another to here in her mind that she just omitted, or in other words, whether Kate thinks it can be you make him to become angry or you make him become angry. That was a little ambiguous. So actually I'm going to say that, because that seems worth clarifying. Actually, I'm just going to note the unnecessary comma. After or, you mean to become or just become? Because you make him become angry reads more naturally, but you make him to become angry sort of fits these other sentences, the pattern more, and it's an actual infinitive. And if we're going to be implying the infinitive wholesale, as opposed to, because there's not an infinitive there, right, in make him angry, looking at the text, there's no infinitive. I think you make him to become angry, like the to become angry sounds a bit better to me than to be angry. So if we're just going to apply a whole infinitive, like we imply a whole, subject with the imperative mood, we might as well do the one that sounds a bit better, because we're not like being grounded by the words in the actual sentence, looking at it on its face, so we might as well make things sound a bit better and maybe be a bit more clear. I guess under Kate's theory, even if you wrote it as to become, you'd still say that it was really to become, and it was still really an infinitive, so it doesn't affect that much. And I guess to be angry, to become angry, they both sound okay. They're both things that would sound fine in another context, like to be angry is bad, to become angry is bad. Those are both sensible sentences. So then it's like, do we want to imply a full infinitive or a bare infinitive? Well, if we're implying either, like, I don't think it matters that much. Okay, so I think I figured out my reasoning for preferring to become angry, so that was helpful. Become angry, no to, so bare infinitive sounds best. I think I want to make the infinitive explicit though, meaning, or I should say, by which I mean having the to. But I also want to make the infinitive that sounds better if you drop the to. Because I want it to be explicit because we're having this complicated grammar discussion and I want everything to be super clear. But I still have style in the back of my mind, like how it sounds and, you know, that sort of thing. So anyway, okay, I figured that out. Which, yeah, I think this was supposed to be a non-restrictive clause, which is, or wait, there's something off about this. Let me think about it. Right, I think actually this, I started out, there's something wrong about it, but I started out in the wrong place. I started a word too soon. This is sort of a parenthetical, similar to the infinitives above. Right, so I just looked it up a little bit, and I think this part should be set off with em dashes. Because the thing is, we need two breaks here. There's an implied infinitive to be, comma, that's fine, which, but then we have this, similar to the infinitives above, that's its own thing. And so I think we want em dashes. Describes the nature of the making. Okay, so since I'm reading and analyzing for grammar, I might as well do it on the actual person I'm replying to, too. There is an implied infinitive of to be, which, similar to the infinitives above, describes the nature of the making. Then, angry is acting as a predicate adjective, which is linked to him. I get the analysis, I think, but it seems overly complicated. Let me scroll up, because I got rid of... Well, I'm just going to ask, what do you see wrong with reading make him angry as implied you, verb, make, object, him, adjective. Angry modifies him. Angry is an adjective. I'm not sure if I want to end a sentence that has a question word with a question mark, but then I want to indicate that there's text following. So I'm like, oh, I mean, this seems like the way you would do it, but it's a little awkward feeling. Okay. I don't know what the rule is on that. Let me look back at the original post and see if I can figure out what problem Kate is trying to solve with this analysis. Alright, I'm just going to send this. I'm going to say, I think I understand your analysis, but I'm not sure why it's better the analysis I just suggested. Applying an entire infinitive troubles me. It's true. So now I'm going to look at a nouns post from July 17th, from yesterday, where it was a follow-up on an earlier Anon post where Anon was saying his theory of at least these sentences. Anon says, I think it's an infinitive clause functioning as a noun, which is the object of the verb. For example, verb make, object him sleep, and the object consists of non-finite verb sleep, subject him. I think it's an infinitive clause, not a phrase, because it has both a subject and a verb. Then I had an objection. For things following the pattern of you make him to eat, I have an objection that it is very vague and might not make a lot of sense. When infinitives are serving in a noun role, they have some nouniness to them. For example, to drink martinis before noon is decadent. To drink martinis before noon is an activity. The act of drinking martinis before noon. This is, noun, person, place, thing, idea. So it's like an activity is a thing. Thing is a pretty broad concept. So that seems legit as a nouny type thing. But what is the nouny type thing in him to eat? And then Anon replies, him to eat is similar to him eating, basically the same meaning. which is a noun phrase that you may be more comfortable with. So I see how him eating is a noun phrase. Like you could say, like in the sentence, the sight of him eating is disgusting. Him eating is serving as the object prepositional phrase, or actually, him eating is a noun phrase serving as the object of a preposition. More specifically, him is the object, and I think eating is a participle modifying him. It's kind of an interesting example because you could say, like, the sight of him is disgusting, right? That would make sense. You could also say, the sight of eating is disgusting, and in either of those cases, it's just that one word. Like in this case, I think it would be a gerund object of the preposition. And, right, but I think in this particular case, him eating, it's him is the real substantive thing, and the eating is like a modifier. Okay. Had a bit of a break there. I came across this interesting fine details discussion of object pronouns, gerunds, participles, and I wanted to ask FI if it had any. So this guy starts off, as a non-native speaker of English, I'm having trouble making sense of a structure pertaining to object pronouns. Likelihood of me doing this. Your plan involves me attempting to prepare plans necessary for you. Chances of me getting into that high school is high. What is it that establishes the connection between object pronouns and verbs in gerund form in terms of both grammar and meaning? In my language, expressions corresponding to the expressions in bold above are constituted with my instead of. And then someone answers, that's not the gerund, that's its identical cousin, the participle. If it were a gerund, then you would use the genitive form my. The likelihood of my doing this is small. In this example, doing this is a gerund phrase. My modifies the gerund phrase. Right, my is an adjective, or sometimes they call it a determiner. The modified gerund phrase is the object of the preposition of. And then the answer gives the example, the likelihood of me doing this is small. And I increase. In this example, doing this is a participial phrase. Participial phrases can modify nouns. This participial phrase modifies me. The modified objective personal pronoun is the object of the. And so I thought this was interesting because, like, these two sound very similar, but the grammatical analysis comes out completely different. And this guy continues. Because there's no visible difference between the gerund and the so-called present participle, it almost looks like me and my are doing the same job. They aren't. The me acts as a modified object. The my acts as an object modifier. Of course, in both cases, you end up with some modified object for the preposition for. The overall meaning of each is much the same, and the choice between them is often no more than a question of stylistic convention. And he says, if it helps, my personal preference is for the gerund construction. I prefer the action rather than the person to be the literal object. So I say I like the example because I thought it explored a question of very fine grammatical distinctions using two cases that seem almost the same at a surface level. That's kind of a long sentence, but whatever, I'm going to leave it. I found it persuasive and thought other people might like it, and I wanted to see if anyone had edited this a bit, because I think it's really about gerunds and participles, so I got rid of the mention of, like, object pronouns, because the core of it is the fine distinctions between gerund phrase and participial phrase. I did a bit more editing. I almost forgot the link. Alright, I'm going to sum this off. So I had asked, there was an earlier discussion about, let's take a look at some good philosophy and how to interpret that, and I had recently asked, could we say that let us is a bare infinitive phrase, since bare infinitives are, bare infinitive discussion is all the rage on FI now. So I asked, is let us a bare infinitive phrase serving as the subject and having its own object? If not, what is the nature of the difference from saying you let him to be as an infinitive clause serving as an object. And Anand says, I don't think bare infinitives can be subjects. I think you either use a to infinitive or a gerund for the subject. And that sounds right. And I couldn't find a counterexample. I guess another thing might be, because with some of these examples, or with these examples, like the theory that was being discussed on a file list recently was that him is serving as part of the object of the sentence, but a subject within the infinitive clause. Okay. It's still serving as part of an object at some point, so the object isn't, the use of the object pronoun isn't like totally arbitrary. It's not like the use of that pronoun form has no connection with the structure of the sentence, because it's still part of an object, even though within its clause the theory is it's a subject. Whereas, actually, you see, I think I was trying to, this is me, I think what I was trying to solve here is make the us some kind of object, because it's an object pronoun. So it's like here, like I want to justify the use of the object pronoun in some way. So here the mental process is, well, it's part of an object of the sentence, so that's okay. Object pronoun, fine. And then here I wanted to sort of do a similar thing where it'd be like the opposite case in a way, where it's part of the subject of the sentence, but it's an actual object within its phrase. And I did say phrase, because if you just have the infinitive and an object, there's no verb-verb. No, infinitives are verbals, but there's no verb doing the verb's job. So then it would just be a phrase. So that's what I think I was trying to solve. But maybe that's misconceived. I'm going to write that. Right, so I say, I think I'm now okay with the object pronoun. Oh, for this sort of example that we were discussing in the other thread, because of the analysis that it's part of an object pronoun of the verb, you make him to eat. Subject, verb, object. So, even if it's theorized to be the subject within its clause, it's still part of an object, so it has some objectiness, so no problem. And then I was trying to do a similar sort of thing. I wanted to make the us an object, but within its phrase. So it would again have some objectiness. And the use of the object pronoun would thus be okay. Maybe that's a misconceived goal. Okay, I think that shows my thought process and says something. Talking a lot about objectiness and nouniness tonight. So Anne analyzed. Let's take a fresh look at some good philosophy sentence in light of the recent infinitive discussion. And she says, if we think of this sentence like the let him be sentence with an infinitive clause serving as an object, we'd get this. Action verb, let. Subject, implied you or we. Object, infinitive clause, us. Take a fresh look at some good philosophy. Then us is the subject of the infinitive take. And a fresh look at some good philosophy is the object of take. And Anand agrees. So everything spelled out would be like, we let us to take a fresh look at some good philosophy, I think. I don't think I have a problem with the implied subject maybe being we. Really seen that sort of thing before, but I don't see why it would have to only be used, so I think I'm okay with that. Yeah, I don't have an objection to this right now, but I think I might think of one. So we'll just move on for now. I think I'm going to wrap this up for now.